And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the TFC fan show. I'm Mike Newell. And we all thought it was good. We thought the home cooking was there. The fortress was back. The place is bumping. And then a little bit of reality comes and sets in at BMO Field this past weekend as Toronto FC dropped their first home result of the season. We will talk about the 3-1 loss to Sporting Kansas City. We'll also complete our 2024 player over-unders, and we will get to your responses to this week's burning question. Big sports night tonight, as Michael Singh pointed out to me before the show. So let's jump right into it. Let's dig in, and then let's go watch Juju Watkins get to the national championship final. I am with my co-host Michael Singh, no Jeffrey P. Nesker tonight. Buddy, how was your weekend? How did you take in the TFC game? Are you all bought in on the Caitlin Clark hype train?
The Caitlin Clark hype train is legit, revolutionizing the game right now, and is must-watch TV. So if anyone sees me on the live stream here looking over to my left, it's because I definitely have that game on. So I appreciate everyone else who's tuned in here to talk some TFC. I promise I will still be 100% committed to 90% committed to this episode
until
here.
Caitlin Clark hits like a logo 3, and then you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah, there it is. Huge sports night though. So let's blow through this. Let's give the people what they want. Starting with, I guess, Saturday. Not a great performance, eh?
No, it was not. Where do we begin? Look, I actually think TFC started off decently well, right? Like I think they were in that game. I think they very much, through their high press, were winning the balls in good spots. But man, the turnovers. There were a lot of turnovers in the midfield between Matty Longstaff and Alonso Cuejo, and I think in a lot of ways that put TFC in a lot of awkward positions during the first half. But that said, I think like the first half is still encouraging, right? Like, could you have been down like 2-0, 2-1 maybe at that point, possibly, if it wasn't for the heroics of Luka Gavran? But in the end of the day, it comes down to, can you finish your chances and can you not turn the ball over? And that was very much evident on Saturday. Mike, what did you kind of see there?
Yeah, I think big picture, overall, TFC is going to look at this game as a missed opportunity. And the reason being is, before the match, we learned that Alan Polito's out for SKC. Obviously, they had no Johnny Russell traveling to Toronto as well. Those are, key pieces for the Sporting Kansas City side who, while maybe on paper they have a pretty decent amount of talent, they haven't lived up to expectations the last couple of years. They've been pretty poor, quite frankly. They started the season decently well. They don't concede a lot of goals. But at home, playing in front of your fans, it was a big opportunity, I think, for Toronto FC to start this Lorenzo Insigne, era where he's injured. Started off on the right note, right? It's not going to get easier, I guess, from this point on. Is the best way I can frame that. So overall, big picture, it was a missed opportunity. You dive into the game, and we'll talk about Coelho and Matty Longstaff a little bit more here, but you mentioned the turnovers. It wasn't necessarily, the amount of turnovers that those two in particular gave up. It was just the timings of it and the position and what happened afterwards, right? They lost the ball in some pretty disadvantageous positions. And I think that cost TFC pretty dearly, I think, throughout this match. So, like I said, it was a game I think TFC should have picked up 3 points in, and they might rue this. considering that
Yeah,
they're going to be without Insigne for 6 weeks.
yeah, for sure. I think this was a winnable match, especially as you mentioned, Alan Pulido being out, Johnny Mack on Who Are You last week really sort of pointed that out that like he was going to be the big difference maker on this team, either playing as the 9 or dropping in as the 10 for them as he played against the Galaxy the week before. And then you find out he's not even playing, and you're thinking, okay, you've got an opportunity here, a team that's coming off a pretty, I won't call it devastating loss, but a loss in which they were up 2-0, looked pretty good against the Galaxy, and then had sort of 10 minutes of madness and lose the game 3-2. And obviously they came in with something to prove, but when you don't have arguably your two most important offensive talents on the pitch, you're thinking that you can get a result here, kind of
Yeah.
similar to Atlanta the week before, right? In a lot of ways, the first half was solid. Like there were opportunities. It wasn't like TFC had no opportunities to score goals here. They did. They created chances. Obviously in the comments here, we were talking about the Matty Longstaff miss. Was it as much a sitter as we thought it was? It's kind of the Mark Delgado debate all over again from the 2018 Champions League final. Was it as
Flashbacks.
was it as much of a sitter as we thought? Most likely he'll want that back and he'll want to put
It
that
was
in
a
the back of
sitter.
the net.
It was a sitter.
Yeah,
He
it
should have
was.
buried that. I think he'll be the first one to own up to that. Let's talk a little bit about a pregame decision, and one that kind of caught me off guard. It was the decision to bring Davey Flores in off the bench.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't start Davey Flores,
No.
and I think we can all agree here. He has been one of Toronto FC's best 2 or 3 players consistently this season. So for John Herman not to go back to Flores, he's obviously coming off international duty with Honduras. That could be part of the reasoning behind it. Um, Maybe it was at home, and with Alonso and Matty Longstaff, they can play a bit more of a free flowing attacking game. Maybe that creates more chances offensively, but I thought they really missed Davey Flores in this match. And I thought
100%.
even when he came off the bench, you could instantly feel kind of the difference that he makes for this Toronto FC team. So your thoughts, I guess, on John Herman's decision to omit Davey Flores?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the look, this is the team that won last week. You don't want to change the lineup. You want to show faith in the players that were able to go out and get it, a 2-0 win at home the week before, right? So you go and you run you sort of kind of run it back, right? And I think there was a little thinking behind that. Look, I don't think anybody could have predicted that Alonso Cuello coming off arguably his best game of the season would follow it up with maybe one of his worst performances of the season. He gave a ball away a lot. He just, he touches the ball a lot for this team, right? Like I think he might have one of the most touches in the game prior to being subbed off.
He had 72 passes and he only played 59 minutes. So
Yeah.
that is an absurd amount. That's even a high number for, someone playing, close to 90 minutes. So yes, he
Exactly.
was very much involved in the build-up play for Toronto FC.
Exactly. And I think if you have a player that's that involved, obviously they're going to they're going to have turnovers, right? That's just sort of natural in terms of the game. However, like you said, he turned the ball over in some really critical areas, some really bad spots that put that back three under a lot of, transition pressure. And I think from that perspective, that's kind of why he got pulled as early as he did, was that it was just leading to, opportunities that you just weren't ready for, especially as, Tyreek Spicer and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy were pushed so far up as the wingbacks. It was really leaving Sigurd Rosted and Shane O'Neill exposed in sort of in that back three in terms of having to run against Willie Agata, who arguably could have had a hat trick in that match.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways gave TFC fits on the counter. But I just wanted to get your thoughts just on Cuello's play, on, just the idea of, should you have gone with David Flores to start the match?
Yeah, it was a poor performance in Cuello, but that's okay. It's totally fine that he has games like that. And I don't think anyone is going to rag on him too hard because he had a dip in form. He's a young player still not a full Major League Soccer season under his belt, and there's a lot of expectation that's been placed on his shoulders, and he's been able to handle the load so far to up to this point in his career, right? We talked about the play has been going through Alonso Coelho, and I thought Matty Longstaff is also very involved in that as well. I think you start to see him, uh, developing more into a leader in this team, and see him kind of dictating where the ball is going to go, kind of directing his players a little bit more. So we are starting to see some of that relationship continue to blossom here in the middle of the park. But yeah, like I said, when you are taking care of the ball in the way that Koyo does, and he's typically super good at it, you get put into situations where you will be punished if you give the ball away and you take certain risks in those areas. And he is a bit of a risk taker. That's what makes him so good, right? He takes smart risks. This time he got it wrong, and it's fine. They move on. I hope John Herman puts him back out next game because he's, like I said, he's super important to this team. Um, yeah, should Davey Flores have started? Yes, probably. Would it have been at the expense of Alonso Coelho or Matty Longstaff or
Well,
I
that's
don't
the
know who
question
else,
here that
right?
Willie's asking, right? Like, if it's Flores, who are you sacrificing
It's a
essentially?
decision, right? It's a decision John Herman has to make. A tough one. It's not an easy one. Even though Lorenzo Insigne is out, we're looking at dropping maybe one of the wing backs. Like, does Tyreek Spicer or Jaquil get dropped from the side? Both players have been pretty good. Both players coming off a really strong performance. Would that have made sense? Not at home, right? So I think it would have had to been one of Longstaff or Coelho who gets sacrificed. And quite frankly, I think Davey Flores should probably be playing over either one of those players right now in Toronto FC's team anyway. So yeah, as Turd says in the chat, it's nice to have depth. That said, you know, it does create some of these problems that John Herman will have to deal with. So
Well,
I
it's
guess
interesting.
the
Yeah,
good
it's
problem to
interesting
have
that Third
cliche.
says depth, right? Like it's depth, but Matty Longstaff can't go 90 right now. Alonso Cuello's, right now he's a 23-year-old second year professional midfielder, third year if you really want to count MLS Next Pro. And he's going to be up and down. He's going to be inconsistent at the moment. That seems to be the thing. So you have depth, but is it depth that is enough to carry you through the season in terms of quality, right? Because I felt like the and look, everybody's been going on about the number 9 and the missed chances on Saturday. We've talked about the number 9 position to death on this show. I don't know if we really want to go too far into it tonight, but to me, I almost feel like TFC are, maybe Lorenzo Insigne should fill this role, but you're missing somebody who can break a game open with a pass. You're missing somebody who can really, break lines with a ball and change the game that way, almost more than you're missing a 9, right? Like, you know me, I'm not exactly on the Prince of Wosu train. I know you are, but
Yeah, that
I think
stock
you are
dropped
missing.
over the
Yeah,
weekend.
the stock has dropped. The stock has dropped.
Good
You did
time to
miss a
buy.
chance on
Good time to
Saturday.
buy.
But I think, like you're missing a guy who can do that right now. And to me, that's almost more important because, you look at this team and yes, they created some chances, but a lot of them, they were kind of, aside from the Manny Longstaff one, it was kind of like a half chance.
Yeah. Well, even
You're
that
missing
chance
that
too.
clinical.
That
Yeah.
chance was off a Bernadeschi, classic cut inside type of move that ricocheted off of him to Prince Owusu, who then plays in Bernadeschi again. So that was a fortunate bounce and one a scoring chance that I would say was not necessarily, intentionally made, if that makes sense. But yeah, circling back to kind of that number 9 and maybe even more importantly number 10, I think it's very clear that they are missing, you know, a playmaker, right? They're missing a guy when Lorenzo Insigne is not in the lineup who's going to be there to kind of pull the strings in the final third, right? We have Bernadeschi who should, in theory, be able to do some of that, but he's very direct. He turns the ball over, quite freely because he's trying to do it a lot by himself. He still has the quality at times, no doubt, but is it consistent enough, or does he turn over possession a bit too much when he is, maybe without Insigne? I think I think it's more so the latter. I think Bernardeschi, when he's without Insigne, does turn over the ball too much because he tries to do too much on his own,
Yeah.
and that could be a byproduct of the team around him. I said this a while ago. Jonathan Osorio is such a great player for this team, but he's not the guy that's going to pull the strings for this team.
100%.
Right? He's not the guy who's gonna be able to consistently slip in, a through ball that'll break down a defense, not that game-breaking pass that you're kinda referring to, a guy who can, really play in between the lines and read the game super well. Like, Ozo's such a good player, I just don't think he's that type of player, and he might be being asked to play that role a little bit more this year because of the personnel that TFC already have, and the formation and game plan that John Herman wants to play. So I think that is definitely a need they need to address, is more creativity up front. And yeah, I don't know if it's more so than that number 9. I still think they definitely need that number 9, but
Oh,
if you
they
don't
need
have
it. Yeah.
I don't if you don't have someone that's playing in balls to them, to kind of your point, then they are in a way useless unless they're creating chances on their own. So uh overall, if you want to talk about the attack, it's a huge, huge, huge task for John Herman to revamp the way this team pushes forward and the way this team does attack, because yeah, they had more expected goals than SKC over the weekend. A lot of that you can chalk up to the Matty Longstaff chance, and of course the uh, splendid Jonathan Osorio finish at the end of the game as a consolation prize. But yeah, they don't have that cutting edge attack that they need, especially at home against a side like SKC.
No, they don't. And this is a question that Jeff wanted to ask. So I'll
Mhm.
ask it and we'll see how we go with it. But um, now that we've kind of, I think he's sort of saying like we've simplified the defense in the sense that we've kind of not fixed the defensive issues in the team yet. Obviously, you give up 3 goals at home. You haven't fixed your defensive issues, but you've improved the defense enough that you're now at least a functional football team. Um, it does it make sense now to start focusing more of the work in training on attacking play, attacking philosophy, instead of being sort of hard to beat kind of work. Is
Yeah.
that something that you think needs to be focused on a little bit more from the coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to say, right? We don't know if that maybe they're working on it every single day, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Is this defense solved? I guess is a better way of framing that question. No, no, it's not. Right? I think there's been a couple games this season where Luka Gavrin or Sean Johnson, whoever's playing in net, had to bail the team out. On Saturday, it was Luka Gavrin. First half, it Luka Gavrin looked like the best keeper in MLS. I said it in the past. I'm like,
Everybody's
this guy's Europe bound.
Well,
Maybe
everybody was
at the end
thinking
of the
like, oh,
season, I thought.
they were saying on the Tunnel Club, it's like, can we trade Sean Johnson? I'm like, whoa, 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 hold
Yeah,
on,
I
hold
brought that
on.
up last week. I brought that up last week. I'm like, man, is Sean Johnson becoming expendable? And people had those thoughts. I mean, even the commentator, I forget who it was on MLS, was saying like Sean Johnson might have to wait a little bit longer because Luka Gavrin's playing so well. Um, yeah, no, definitely not, because Sean Johnson is elite and is incredible, as good as Luka Gavrin is playing. But man, if it wasn't for Luka Gavrin or, like I said, Sean Johnson at earlier points of the year, I think that TFC would be in a worse position defensively. You know, so still work to do on that front, but they've improved drastically, right? Even if you look at the game over the weekend, SKC's goals, right? Where do they all come from? For
Outside
the
the
most
box,
part,
screamers.
outside the box, or like a one-off counterattack, which probably because TFC was a bit too aggressive in terms of trying to get back into the game. So, those are goals that, while annoy you, you'd rather those types of goals than, I think, the clear-cut opportunities that, teams have when they get in behind your defense, or the breakdowns in the back, right? This is stuff that I think is more correctable. So long-winded way of saying, no, they can't forget about the defense, because improving that defense will only give them that foundation to be a competitive side, especially when you go on the road. Because the recipe to win on the road is, as we've seen early on this year, is just be super compact, be great defensively, and take your 1 or 2 chances when they come kind of offensively. That's kind of the blueprint and DNA of this team. But yes, of course they got to put more emphasis, you know, moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you gotta, as much as we're saying, hey, the defense may have struggled a bit. There were turnovers. You do have to take your hats off to SKC because two of those goals were screamers. Now, the first one definitely. The second one, maybe Luka Gavrin could have done better with that. Maybe he wants
For
that
sure.
back. He
For sure.
definitely reaches with the wrong hand to try to stop it. Um, but they're still great finishes, right? They're still very good finishes, and you can't sort of take that away from SKC. And they definitely came in with a particular game plan that worked, right? A couple of positives from the game. You know, people are still singing the praises of Tyreek Spicer. I think in many ways he's been kind of a bit of a refreshing addition to the 11 in terms of just being very direct
Yeah.
in terms of the way he plays. Again, sort of you're kind of waiting for end product a little bit. But your thoughts on Tyrese Spicer's game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think he is a difference maker in this TFC team. We saw him almost put the ball in the back of the net with a far post run, gets his head on it, tries to do the right thing by putting the ball back across. Had he have just, maybe gone for goal, we're talking about this guy having 2 goals in his first 2 career MLS starts. But it was also you know, less so about the end product, but the willingness to get there, the willingness to put his, head on the ball. Yeah, listen, his speed, his directness, as you kind of mentioned, kills, right? He does something on this team that other people quite frankly don't. It's a different type of profile, different type of skill set. So I've liked what I've seen out of Tari Spicer. Uh, I mentioned this last week, and what TFC are going to miss out of Lorenzo Insigne, and I think we saw some of this. Is with Lorenzo Insigne in the squad, they have an outlet, right? They have someone they can release the ball to up the field, and he will buy the team time. He'll keep possession for the team. He will, break defenses down, break down presses by a single pass because he's that good. You look at Tyrese Spicer, and he's put in similar positions. Uh, he lost the ball like 25 times, I think, over the course of the match. So different type of skill set. Not necessarily Tyrese Spicer's fault. He's not brought in to necessarily do the type of things that Lorenzo Insigne does, but I think TFC are going to miss that on the left side of the park, right? They need to find ways to keep possession a little bit better. And Tyrese Spicer's game, is more so built around that directness and taking risk and, at times losing the ball or giving the ball away because he's trying to take those risks. So I think that's part of the trade-off when it comes to Tyrese Spicer. But yeah, overall, he's a new fresh body, fresh skill set that we see in this TFC team, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, for sure. And you're also going to have to live with mistakes, as you mentioned, right? And especially on the defensive side of things as well, right? Like he was slightly at fault for, I believe, the third goal. In terms of, sort of the player might have been the second goal. But at the same time, you like the fact that there is someone that has that kind of pace that can go on and sort of put you into good positions when he's able to get around defenders and just use his pace. One of the questions that got asked a lot over the last little bit is, and especially again, this came up on the Tunnel Club, was the fact that he was a forward winger, whatever he really played at Lipscomb. He probably played all over the front three, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to try him at the 9 position? A lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sold on doing that, but people are going to kind of look at the college record and say like, hey, why don't we give him a shot?
Well, I'm laughing because I feel like he's been our most, aside from Insigne, our most dangerous attacker
Yeah.
moving forward, right? And looks like the most clinical in front of goal. So I'm laughing because it's not even that far fetched, which is ridiculous to say. Um, if it's just about Toronto FC this season, and TFC go on a run here where they continue to not find success in Prince Owusu and DeAndre Kerr, and they don't have the resources right away to bring in the number 9 that they're going to be bringing in, then maybe it makes sense to just try him out, right? He's we talked about it, like who comes out of the side for Davey Flores. Maybe it's Prince Owosu that comes out of the side for Davey Flores, and Tyreek Spicer gets pushed up to that number 9 position, and TFC fill everybody else in. Like JMR goes to the left hand side, Berner goes to the right wing back role. Maybe that's something they have to try. I don't think it's as far fetched as maybe the question seems.
Yeah, I should maybe rephrase that. I don't think it's far fetched. I just didn't see that that's where this was going.
Yeah,
At the start of the season, I think we were all very much committed that okay, he's going to play wing back. They're going to try that, and they're going to try him out as kind of the quote unquote Alphonso Davies role. I know that gets used a lot because that came up. But I mean, at a certain point, why not? Right? If you're trotting out the same guys every week and kind of getting the same results, definition of madness, like in using a
hmm
Jeffism there. But like, I think that the one thing he can provide that maybe the others can't really provide, maybe aside from DeAndre Kerr, is that ability to run in behind. That threat, that pace and that threat of running in behind keeps defenses somewhat honest, right? The center backs have
yeah.
to be honest. They can't cheat. They can't just push up all the time and leave a bunch of space in behind for Tyreek Spicer to run in behind. So I wonder
But
if they start thinking
if I
about
can
that.
if I can push back on that, Prince Owosu should be able to do that too,
But
right?
he doesn't.
He's shot out of a cannon. He is so fast when he
Agreed.
gets going. Um, he doesn't, but why? Does it come down to what we just talked about? Is there a player on TFC that's releasing him in behind, right? You know, is he not making the right runs? Is the timings of his runs not correct? Is it his teammates not finding him when he does make the runs, and then maybe it comes down to the player becoming annoyed because his teammates aren't finding him, so he's not going to make the run as much. Little things like that, that start to add up. DeAndre Kerr, same thing, should be able to make in the runs behind. I think more so when we're talking about people getting in behind, there's got to be someone on the other end of that can play him in behind. Uh, so I don't know if Tyree Spicer gets plugged into that number 9 role. I don't know if that's just going to happen magically. I guess is what I'm saying.
Fair enough. And then that comes down to your question of, are your arguably it's going to probably be Frederico Benassi in a lot of cases, just based on the fact that he's going to have a lot of the ball. Is he willing to put in that ball? Is he willing to put that player in behind?
Yeah.
Because look, you were right. You mentioned it earlier. He is carrying the ball. He'll carry the ball a lot more with Lorenzo out of the lineup. He will try to do more from that perspective. Is that the most healthy thing for the team right now? I know a lot of people saying, well, he's a DP. He should probably be doing that. But is that actually, for the team, the best thing to be doing?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. And it's like, okay, what are your other options? That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, okay, no, maybe it's not the best thing for the team, but then, you know, how else do you break down a side like Sporting Kansas City, who's bunkering in, right? Who's your game breaker in your squad? Who's the guy that can break down a defense? If you don't have the offensive flow going, you know, can we get it out to Tyree Spicer a little bit more, and can he whip in, some of the delicious crosses that we've seen he's capable of? Can we get Jaquil Marcheretti on the ball a little bit more and maybe some of those promising areas and get Oso back post for a run? Maybe it is something like different looks, but at the same time, as you kind of touched on earlier, like Bernadeschi is probably the best option for breaking down a defense right now, still for Toronto FC, just given their personnel. I don't know. It seems like you disagree though.
Um, I don't necessarily disagree, but I do think that he has been found out a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody knows what he's going to do, and Jeff always loves to bring the Iron Robin example in. Everybody take a shot. Iron Robin got mentioned again on this podcast. Um, but the difference is Iron Robin could get around defenders most of the time. They just stack people on top of the 18 and take the ball off him, right? Because they know what he's going to try to do.
Yeah.
And I again, is that breaking down a defense? Is that providing and opening up spaces for your teammates to be able to create something? In theory, yes, because Jaquil Marshall-Rutty should be able to get space to overlap him, but he's
not
not necessarily
releasing him.
looking to play Jaquil Marshall-Rutty, right? If he's putting on that left foot, we know what he's trying to do, right? 9 times out of 10.
The thing about Robin was that he would go left, and every single defender in the world would know that he's going left, and they still wouldn't be able to stop him
Yeah.
because his touches were so good, and he was so like such a good dribbler. You know, Byrne is not Robin, and it's fine.
No.
He doesn't have to be Iron Robin. You know, he also doesn't. I mean, I think that gets overblown a little bit. Obviously, like it's what he'd prefer to do, but I think there's other parts of his game that he tries to exploit and it doesn't necessarily come off. And look, the results don't necessarily back up my argument. I'm fighting a losing battle here. He has 0 goals, 0 assists this season. Hasn't created like a flurry of chances. I struggle to buy into the fact that there are definitively better options on this team.
Hey man, people want to see the Cassius Mailula show. They're ready for it. Don't know if it's cash money yet. I don't know if it's his time yet. But that's what people want to see it. 2 things quickly before we move on from the game. One, hats off. Oso scores again. Yes, it's a consolation goal. You know, read at it as you will. But he has scored in every season he has played for TFC. And that is actually an incredible accomplishment, you know, for him and for the club. So great to see. Obviously you want to see it in a win, but a great accomplishment for him as well. And then just this narrative, I brought up a tweet, or I put out a tweet after the game on Saturday, just talking about the differences in the vibes when it comes to a loss, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, we're seeing shades of 2023 again. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And I get it. Like, look, it's a 3-1 loss at home. It was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. But the vibe is so different. The way that this team competes is very, very different. And I said in the tweet, and I wonder if you agree or disagree, that last year you lose 3-1 at home, and it would have been a lifeless, soulless display from TFC, probably with an own goal for the 1 goal, right? Like that's how it would have gone down last year, and you just would not have felt anything from this team. I think Saturday night, it shows that even in a loss, there is a marked difference in this team, like in terms of its compete level, in terms of its, you know, just ability not to hang its head after conceding a goal, right? They will still fight and still go forward. And I think that's the difference this season. Look, there will probably be more 3-1 losses like that during the season. But the vibe, the way that the team is going about things, the way John Herdman is going about things, drastically different from 2023. Wanted to get your thoughts on that, Mike.
Yeah, so I don't want to take anything away from, you know, the players who have really helped instill that mindset change that you're referring to. I think everyone who, you know, even went to the game on Saturday could feel that this is a very much a different Toronto FC team. They are Herman's, quite frankly, really getting the most out of a lot of his guys. Right, we talked about this. You know, the Sigurd Rostads of the world, the Shane O'Neills of the world. You know, people who didn't have roles on this team a year ago, and quite frankly, probably would have been tough to find jobs this year. Those guys look like they're important players for Toronto FC all of a sudden. No, I think where some of that frustration kind of sets in is when you look at the path forward and the path ahead, and this kind of brings me to this overall theme of where Toronto FC are. It's going to be really, really tough for this team to pick up points over these next 5 weeks. I think without Lorenzo and Insigne, this team is pretty much for the most part, what you saw on Saturday. Maybe that's slightly harsh. They probably are better with Davey Flores in the mix. Richie Laryea would obviously help too. But without those players, Richie and Insigne and then Raul Petretta, you throw him into the mix. I think TFC are going to struggle over these next couple of weeks, and it's going to look a lot more like last year's version of the team in the essence of they're not going to create a ton of chances, but they're not going to give up a ton either, I think. Right? I think both, it won't be as eventful, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, as it was on
Yeah.
Saturday, but I don't think TFC are going to run away with any game over this next stretch.
No, I think you are right in that sense. What I'm more speaking to, and look, there's some comments in here saying that they don't feel any different. A loss is a loss is a loss, and sure, that's fine. I get that. From that perspective,
Mhm.
and I can understand. Like it's been 3 years. It's been 3 seasons of just dire football, and I can understand why people feel that way. However, I would say that the difference is that there feels like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, if that makes sense,
And
right?
that's the start that happened, right? He
Yeah,
bought that equity, right? We've talked about it so many times of how important it is for Toronto FC to have gotten off to a good start for this season. Like, listen, if this is Toronto FC's first game of the year, and we're talking about a 3-1 loss to Sporting Kansas City at home in the fashion that they lost, oh my god, like,
yeah,
this is meltdown once again of here we go again. But instead, Toronto FC are 1 win away from, being top of the Eastern Conference, and everything's okay because they bought themselves this time. They bought themselves this opportunity to have moments like these, to stumble, take a step back. What'll be the true measuring stick of this team is how exactly they respond, right? How much different are they going to look on Saturday when they go to a tough environment at BC Place, take on the Vancouver Whitecaps in what won't be an easy game whatsoever on turf, by the way. You
yeah,
know, this is the challenge right now. But as you said, the vibes are different because I think of the start they had.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Just really quickly, TTID man of the match day or your man of the match, whatever we want to go with. I am gonna go with Luka Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes, the second half was not as pretty, but it probably gets worse if he's not standing on his head in the first half.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. That's safe. Shaquille Masharati for me.
Fair.
He completed every single one of his passes, by the way, on Saturday, just 26 for 26.
Great ball on
Obviously
the
had that
goal.
assist. I thought it very solid once again, both ways, right? He's literally grown up right in front of our eyes where he's at the point now where he can impose himself on a challenge. He's not a he's not afraid to get into a 50-50. In fact, he's initiating it at times. And we're starting to see a player go from uh, barely being an MLS player because he's so young and so small to a guy who's very much competitive in the space. So yeah, for me it was Jaquil.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that is that's a wrap on a 3-1 loss to SKC. As Mike said, we are going to be heading to Vancouver next week, or this Saturday, I should say, for a tough match against a team that's second in the Western Conference right now. Vancouver are flying at the moment. But I think for our next segment, I think we're going into a little Herds the Word, I believe.
Heard is the word. Let's do
Let's
it.
go.
Can I see that paper for a sec? Huh, that's odd.
What are you talking about?
Oh, have you not heard?
Heard what?
Heard the word. Heard the word. Don't you know about the herd? Surfing!
Anything can happen in football these days.
Yes, it is Herds the Word. Jeff would kill us if we didn't actually do it while he was here. Yeah, I think we're changing up Herds the Word a little bit. I think we're also going to do one this week and sort of one that we all picked for the week instead of going through all three. Please let it be known that I am the winner of Heard's the Word between the three of us. Okay, I won.
I think it was 2-2.
No. It's 3-2. 3-2. I won last week, did I not?
Debatable.
I won 2 weeks in a row.
Debatable. Let's roll the clip.
3.
I think it's been a discussion across the club since last season. There's this constant conversation about that centre forward role. I cannot fault Prince Owusu's work rate tonight. I mean, you look at the effort he put in. He put in one of the biggest shifts in that team. The pressing, he nearly forced the keeper into an own goal twice. So, I mean, his efforts, 100%. DeAndre Kerr, they come on and put a shift in. But, they're getting chances. They're getting options to opportunities to play. And at some point, someone's really got to step up and take that number 9 jersey.
That is once again a cry to Jason Hernandez to say, go get me a quality.
Please, Jason,
right
please.
there. Because he's saying all the right things, right? Like Prince Owusu is working extremely hard, which he is. Fair. He covers a lot of ground. He, like I said, when he gets going. He plays a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, which I like out of a number 9. Big body, imposing. But the quality sometimes just lacking when it comes to maybe some of his layoffs or some of his decision making. So I think that's more so a cry to Jason Hernandez to get me a number 9. I'm trying everything I can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, as much as you guys are in the comments and saying we need a number 9, they know. They very much know they need a number 9. John Herdman's saying it in his comments. Jason Hernandez has said it in public comments before. They're looking for a number 9. So really it's more the question of who's the number 9 currently on the roster that gets the old heave-ho once that 9 comes in, whether it's at the end of this transfer window, most likely at the next transfer window. We'll see, right? Because you're going to have to move some things around to bring in that player.
Yeah. And obviously the summer transfer window, you bring in a player at only half of their salary cap counts as, towards the budget. So I don't know if it's something towards the summer that they can leverage and do. I think they have more space to do something here though. So let's stay tuned. Let's see what Jason Hernandez has cooking, because trust me, he's a guy who likes to cook.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to go into player over-unders in a second, but as some of you know, a couple of years ago, we started up something called the Tunnel Club. It was a Twitter Spaces shows that we did, kind of live reactions after games. I was the co-host of it at one point, along with Sean Levy. It stopped for a while as I jumped onto this show. But it's been brought back. So the Tunnel Club was back this weekend talking about the 3-1 loss against Sporting Kansas City with a new face in the chair. So we're going to bring them in, have a little chat. They'll maybe even join us for the over-unders and the burning question as well. So let's bring them in. We've got Sean Levy and Noel Allen, the co-hosts of the Tunnel Club. Gents, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm pretty good. Not bad. Can't complain.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can't complain either. Well, 3-1 loss didn't help start the week, but it's good.
Yeah, no, it's great that you guys brought the show back. I know a lot of people really enjoy sort of that sort of closer to the game reaction show. Obviously, we're on Mondays. Most of the games are on Saturdays. So you guys are definitely a big hit, and you guys will definitely continue to do the show going forward. Noel, it was your first time in the seat. How was it for you doing the show for the first time?
It's awesome. Yeah, you know what? It's I grew up in England where you went down the pub on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to complain about the results or celebrate the results from the game on Saturday. So Tunnel Club kind of gives you that experience, right? So it's super fun, and I think you know having this part of the community where you can kind of, it's almost like therapy where you can say what you want, you can get it off your chest, right? You can complain, and yeah, I think it's huge, and love just doing it on the weekend. I think it's me and Sean had our own Tunnel Club, I think between 11 and 12 on Sunday. So we talked for an hour before, and yeah, we just carried on into the Tunnel Club. So it's super fun. We're excited to bring it back, and we feel it's for the community, right? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, honestly, and it sucks that it died down for various reasons. It is what it is, but to have you guys back and launching it, super exciting. Noel, what a setup, by the way, that you have in the back.
Yeah,
one side is TFC, and then this side is the shrine to the Packers.
The shrine to the
Nice.
Packers. Okay.
He's a big Packers fan. Not my blank wall behind me that makes me look like I'm in an hosted video.
The other part of this video is actually my Green Bay Packers bar. So.
Cool.
You got
All
a
right,
nice little
guys.
man cave there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. We're going to do our player over-unders. We're actually wrapping them up for the season. These are the last 3 players that we have to do. So you guys feel free to give us your over-unders as well.
Yep.
I think we're also going to do some for Jeff as well. So Mike Singh, this is your show, so take it away.
All right. So Jordan Peruzza. Wow. Bit of a forgotten soul for Toronto FC. I did see him warming up over the weekend. He is on the bench. He does exist still. Listen, like Jordan is a guy who I have always said is going to take years to develop and get to the point where he can be a impactful contributor. Every level that he's played at coming up as a youngster, whether it be USL, League One, or USL Championship, he's been an impact scorer. TFC2, record setter there for the amount of goals for TFC2. Still very much a young player. However, even though Toronto FC's number 9 position is in dire need of a solution, he's very much down the depth chart, I think, there. So I'm setting his over-under for appearances made this season at 3.5 for Toronto FC's first team. Noel, I see you pondering there. I'm going to throw it to you first. Will Jordan Peruzza make at least 4 appearances for Toronto FC's first team this year?
It's tough because you've seen the last 2 home games. You've seen him running up and down, doing his sprints in front of us. And I'm like, oh, he looks fit, looks healthy. And then we bring on Ayo. And you're like, how bad is he in training to not get a start against the guy that had 3 touches last week, right? You know what I mean? I don't think he does it. I don't think he gets past 4. I think he goes out on loan is what I think is going to end up happening.
Is that what you're going to say, Sean?
Yeah, I have to agree with Noel. I just don't see him being here for the full season. I see at some point, when the summer window opens up, he'll be most likely loaned out to a CPL team. And I question whether he really is an MLS level striker. He has had quite a few years being with, training with the first team, given opportunities, yet I just don't think he's, and that's not enough. Like, I think sometimes we have to remember some of these guys that come up through the academy aren't going to make the first team, aren't even going to play MLS, right? And I think he's been given lots of opportunity. I mean, the fact that we haven't even seen, a 5 minutes when, we're that game, for example, on Sunday, game is over, right? And no one knows how I feel about Ayo. You know what? Throw on Jordan. Let's see if he brings something different. And he's not even given a look of an opportunity. So I don't see him. I don't see it.
Yeah, I hear that. It does, he's been around for a really long time, it feels like, because we've been hearing about his name even before he signed his first team contract with TFC. Still 23 years old, so younger than Alonso Cuello, for example. However, I think you're not alone in questioning that, Sean. I think a lot of people are questioning that, and it's not like he lit the CPL on fire when he went into HFX last year. So, I don't know if you're alone in that. I'm still buying. God, I'm buying a lot of cheap stock nowadays, but I'm still buying stock in Jordan Peruzza's future here at Toronto FC. He's got too good of a head on his shoulders, too much of an engine, and the quality's there. It's just it's tapping into it. Mike, what do you think?
I think a lot of people know how I feel about Jordan Peruzza. I like him as a person. He is as you've said, Mike, on this show before, he's TFC through and through. Like he is TFC.
Till
That's
he
a guy
dies.
who, yeah, he literally, in a lot of ways. I kind of agree with Sean. Like, I actually think the best thing for him is to leave the club. The best thing for him is to leave the club and go somewhere and play real minutes and score goals and get in there. And he's a player that maybe goes away for a couple years to another team and you bring him back right at that point. I think it's better for him. Look, in the end, he'll only know that in his heart what he wants to do. I've heard rumblings that Halifax would love to have him back on a full season loan. The CPL season starts in 2 weeks. So they would love to have him back. I don't know if they're going to find some terms to get him back to Halifax or to another CPL club. I actually think he'd be great in Hamilton because I think they need a striker. But right now, I just don't think it's in the works, and therefore I'm going to go under. I actually think he may not make 5 appearances this year.
Yeah, I mean, Hugo Mbonga has already been loaned out by TFC, so they're not shy to do that with some of their young strikers. For the vibes, I'm going over. Listen, this guy's gonna get a show. He's gonna get an appearance. He's gonna go in. He's gonna bang a screamer, and he's gonna get 3 more appearances, and he's gonna make his 4 appearances, and then we're gonna bring in a new number 9, and that'll be it.
How many goals has he scored since he's been with the big club?
2?
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
2.
He's got more goals than Prince Owusu.
Yeah.
Although
he's got more goals than Iowa Canola the last 2 years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, I the only reason I think Iowa's playing is they're trying to shop it and hope they can get some value.
Well, he's in his last year of his contract, right? So
yeah, or they're just trying to get something out of that contract, as Mike said. There's that's another one, but that's for another day.
Okay, Jeff, we got to go do really quickly, Jeff.
Yes,
Jeff went under. Jeff over. Let's go vibes with Jeff.
He went under. He did
go under. Okay,
so yeah, I have his picks.
Fair
Jeff went under. Jeff saw the number. He said, no matter what it is, I'm taking the under. All right, Davey Flores, destroyer in the middle of the park. I got his over-under set at 4.5 yellow cards this season. So will Davey Flores pick up at least 5 yellow cards this season? So just give everyone some context. Last year, he had 3 yellows in 16 appearances in Hungary. He has 0, actually, surprisingly, so far this season.
Should have had at least 1. Okay.
At least 1. I'm sure he's gotten away with a couple. Sean, let's start with you this time. Davey Flores, are you taking the over or under 4.5 yellow cards?
I'm going to say over. He plays with that edge, that aggression, and I like that about him. I like, we sometimes need that player. And I'm okay with, I don't want to see him exceed like 7, 8, 9, but yeah, I could see him easily getting 5.
Yeah, Chad agrees with you. Noel, what do you think?
MLS refs are back, so I definitely think he's going to get a red and a few yellows over. So I like the way he plays. I think it's something on Saturday you saw we've missed for years. We haven't had that type of player. I think I said it on the Tunnel Club. I think if he was on in the start of the second half, I don't think they concede 2 of those goals. But I think he's gonna get some yellows in some of those games. And I can see him. I've had this prediction he's gonna get 1 this weekend, if not a red this weekend. I think he'll be on a mission to prove something to Vancouver, or why they let him go, right? So I just think I like him, but I think he will be an over.
He actually only had 1 yellow card with Vancouver during his span there. I think across the course of maybe 20-something odd matches with Vancouver. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know if a reputation is something he'll build up here in MLS as well. That can mean referees look out for you a little bit more if you're known to be more of that destroyer 6. You probably get a little bit more of a spotlight in Toronto than you do in Vancouver. That relating it to like the Leafs. I always relate it to the Leafs. I love the Leafs. Michael Bunting was a guy in Toronto where, before he played for the Leafs, probably similar type of player, never called by anything for the refs, but you play for Toronto all of a sudden and you're playing under the biggest spotlight in hockey, then referees start to learn who you are and look out for certain things a little bit more. I wonder if that's the case with Davey Flores. But Mike, what do you think?
I'm going to go under. I feel like the underlying stats in his career say that he actually does not get as many yellow cards as we think he gets, right? Because just the way he tackles makes you think he's going to get a yellow card.
Yeah.
He's got to be. He's got to get a yellow at some point, right? But I actually think if you kind of look at a lot of his tackles, a lot of them are more interceptions than like really hard sliding, studs up challenges. And he times tackles actually really well.
He's a good tackler. Yeah.
He's a very good tackler. And then I think that's why I think he'll be slightly under that. And let's hope, because, if he's starting to get over that, then that means suspensions and you need him to play. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going under. I think 5's high for a player who has shown the ability to evade yellow cards, I guess, so far this season. In his career for the most part. So I'm going to go under. I'm with you there, Mike. Last one for the over-unders.
What did Jeff have on that?
Oh, sorry. Jeff took over.
Yeah.
Jeff took the over. Last one for the over-unders, Tyreek Spicer. So, we talked about him already, making an impact with TFC, almost had another goal over the weekend. I set his over-under for goals plus assists, so goal contributions this year, at 5.5. So will he have at least 6 goal contributions? He already has 1 goal in, 3 appearances, 2 starts this season. When he played in college, he absolutely tore it up, especially last season. He finished with 14 goals, 3 assists in 16 games. Completely different level, obviously. So kind of got to take that with a grain of salt. Noah, let's go back to you. Will Tyreek Spicer have at least 6 goal contributions this season?
I want to say yes. My heart wants to say yes. I just don't know, when everybody's fit and healthy, if he starts enough and if he plays enough. I'm under. I think he's like, I would like to see him up front at the end of the day. I'd like to put him there and see what he does, but I think he's going to be under. But I just don't see him when everyone's healthy and back in where he fits in. If he comes off the bench and kind of plays a bit part role and that kind of stuff, that would be, I think, that'd be a stretch, right? It's not like we are a free scoring team. There's not enough chances, that's the next part of it, right? So yeah, it's definitely under for me.
Sean?
I'm going to go with over. I think there's something about this kid. I think he has that hunger. For his benefit right now, and, we're not going to see Richie back for a few weeks. We're not going to see Insigne back for a while. So he's going to get some playing time right now. And this, he might not be scoring every time, but I think, where we might be surprised is his assists. I think that where he'll probably accumulate more points this in his first year. Will be through his assists versus goals. But he is going to be, there's going to be games where he's just going to score, right? And he has that ability to finish. And you can see it, in the limited time we've seen him play. I've been impressed.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, you guys weren't here, but I was saying this guy looks like a real difference maker, a guy who can, contribute directly, whether it be via goal scoring opportunities or creating maybe through one of his deliciously whipped crosses. There's something there for sure that, he impacts the game in a tangible way, I guess is the best way to frame it. Mike, what do you think?
I think it's going to be slightly under, and the only reason, and you're talking about those whip balls, they're beautiful. You need someone on the end to finish them. He's already put in a few of them, and they have all gone a begging. I think it's going to be an under there, unless, and this again for Sean, I know you guys weren't on the show yet. We were talking a little bit about what if they end up putting Spicy T up front and give him a shot as the forward. I know this was talked about on the Tunnel Club. Maybe then you could see it. But right now, I just think it's an under. I just, again, route to goal. Can somebody finish on those crosses? Is he going to be in enough positions to finish?
Just put him up front. You can't do any worse, right? He's got pace to...
We've got a Canadian Championship game coming up. No knock on Simcoe Rovers, but he a game like that alone, someone like Spicer has potential to dominate that game. and either score at will or be a playmaker.
Will Devlin
and
will have
I'm
words
just,
with you, Sean.
I know that, but I mean, I'm not. But the reality is the way the team's playing right now. Like, it's not like there's a lot of question marks compared to a year ago this time, right? You know, I'm confident going into you're playing against a League One team that is going to be hyped, but I just don't think they're going to have anywhere near enough to stop TFC that on the night.
Yeah. So, Mike, did you take the under?
I'm taking the under, yes.
I'm going to go over. It's close. That was a good number I threw out there.
It is close.
Guys. That was a
close.
good number I threw
100%,
out there.
It is close.
I'm going to go over. It's, like I said, I think he just impacts the game in a real meaningful way. Sometimes not the most efficient way, but listen, this team needs contributions more than anything, than nice build-up play, than nice balls in between the lines, right? They need something more than that. I think he'll provide that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Jeff went over for what
Jeff
it's
went
worth.
over. Okay, fair enough. So that is our 2024 player over unders, getting into the 6th match day for TFC, and we're finally done our player over unders. But we got them, so we'll clip these all together. I think we're gonna put some kind of mega mix of these together on YouTube so you can watch. And then in October, we'll once again revisit these and see how horribly, horribly wrong we're most likely going to be. Tyreek Spicer ends up being MLS Golden Boot winner or something like that. And then David Flores puts in 8 yellow cards and gets 2 suspensions. But that's the fun of over-unders. All right, let's move to the burning question. Do we have a stinger for that?
Oh, we have a stinger for that.
The burning question. I didn't know we had a stinger. Actually, I didn't know we had a stinger. I just couldn't remember if it was loaded. All right, we asked you guys on the Twitter, the X, whatever you're calling it these days. You're the manager. You won't be getting a new number 9 until the next transfer window. The team is struggling offensively. How would you line up the team to score goals against Vancouver? A couple of answers in. G Money Talks. As always, coming out with the beautiful graphic showing us the formation, the 3-4-2-1. He's got in his lineup for Saturday. Spicer up top. He's got Osorio and Longstaff underneath him with JMR, Flores, Quajo, and Bernardeschi. So JMR and Bernardeschi as the wingbacks. And then a back 3 of Rosted, Long, O'Neill, and Sean Johnson back in goal. We just spent some time talking about Tyreek Spicer up top.
This was it. This was dropping Prince of Osu and bringing in Davey Flores back into the mix, right? This is what we just talked about. So nice to see. Good, smart minds think alike.
I like it.
Did I even say that right?
Yeah.
I sound dumb.
Right.
Dumb minds think
Now,
alike.
I guess my question is, do we know if Johnson's back?
We don't fully.
He was on the
yet,
bench though.
but he was on the bench and
Was
he
he?
was
over the
training.
weekend?
Yeah.
He was
Okay.
training most of the week. So it's a good likelihood he'll be back next week, unless they want to save him from the turf. But I mean, I don't think this is completely out of the realm of possibility. I really do think they'll start DeAndre on Saturday. I think that's where they're going to go and start him as a 9. And then probably Spicer is again going to maybe be the wing back. But who knows?
I think we'll see what Bob Bradley tried, what Terry Dunfield tried, what other managers, Chris Armas when he was here, Javier Perez, throw something at the wall and hope something sticks. So if Prince of Osu isn't going one game, the next game DeAndre Kerr is going to get the start. If DeAndre Kerr doesn't go, Prince is one of them, as John Herman said, and heard is the word, is one of them has to run with it, right? Who's going to get the opportunity? Who's going to run with it? We saw Prince get on the board. Maybe there was hope that he would build off that. He didn't. Okay, let's go back to DeAndre. Kind of see what happens there. I think that's the way it's going to go until someone does something with it.
revolving door number 9. That's an interesting one. And then Turtz just responded, maybe try a 3-5-2 with Owosu and Kerr as strike partners. Created a few chances that should have been finished on Saturday, so I'm not opposed to trotting out the same lineup. We kind of did that at the end of the game, like when we brought Io in, they kind of played 2 up top. To try to end the game. I don't know if this team is that built well for a 3-5-2, but interesting.
They struggled to get in the box on Saturday. Like there was a couple of crosses where Io was still on the edge of the box and the ball was in the middle of the box. And I think Kerr might be a better option, but I just don't see them playing 2 up top. I just don't think it works. I don't think Prince looks like a guy that can knock the ball down and somebody comes onto it, right? You know, like the big man, little man with Josie and Seba, right? It just doesn't. I just don't think that's going to work.
What a time!
What
a time! But also,
I watched the just really side note. I watched the 2017 Canadian Championship final. BMO and Seba scored that goal. The noise was insane. Okay, diatribe over.
Also, I don't see them going with the 2 strikers up top because they're playing on the road. So very much kind of what I said earlier, their recipe for playing away from home is going to be park the damn bus and let's go capitalize on our 1 or 2 chances that we get. If we come out of the BC place with a draw, I'm sure they'll be thrilled to walk away with a draw. It's just more so keep the ball out of the back of your net.
They're going to play on the counter. They're going to play kind of like how Man United does at their peak, right? They sit back, absorb it, and then just hit you on the 1 or 2 chances. You've got speed in JMR and Spicer, so I wouldn't see them doing anything differently. And I think they'll probably play Prince or Kerr up front because, again, it's pace. Because Prince does have some speed. He did do some really good closing down on the corner. He just deceptively looks a little bit slower, I think. But when you see him up person, he is quite quick. But I do think they'll just play on the counter, which I'm okay with. On the road, just do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to see Flores over Longstaff starting, but I know, he's just coming back and we are playing on turf, so I can see why you maybe want to start a Longstaff over Flores. But, just when Davey Flores is on that pitch, I just think there's something different about how that midfield plays.
1,000%. 1,000%.
I think Longstaff doesn't start on the pitch, on the plastic pitch on Saturday. I think they go Flores, Quajo in the middle, Bernardeschi up top with Osorio, and Spicer is going to be at the wing back, and then move JMR onto the right. I think that's the way they most likely go. Quick one before we wrap up the show here. G Money actually asked a really great question, something that I thought was really interesting from Saturday. We didn't really bring it up. But here's the question. Thoughts on Kosi playing right center back on Saturday? Will we see more of that in the future? That was an interesting one. I didn't think he didn't show himself too badly there. But thoughts on that?
Was it not more of a right back role?
Probably was
if I'm
more
not
of
mistaken.
It's probably more of a right back.
He did look more of a right back. When he came on, his initial positioning, he was straight to right back. I think I said it to Sean. I'm like, is he putting Kosi at right back?
Well, he's played right back before.
Yeah.
Limited,
It looked a little odd, right? Like he just, but I don't think he did too bad, to be honest with you. Like,
no, we've seen it.
In transition well, but that's one thing.
Yeah, we've seen it under Bob Bradley. Kosi played maybe half the year at right back and very much ups and downs.
I forgot about that.
After JMR got hurt,
yeah,
Kosi was the next man up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how Kosi got his first goal. It was actually as a right back. I think, G Money, why you thought he played center back, because I saw this on the television broadcast at the time. There were times where he was picking the ball up deep centrally at times. And now that was probably because, again, TFC were pushing to try to get a goal at those points. So I can see why you thought he was playing center back, because there were times where he might have been switching at times, but I don't think that's like where he was playing.
Unless I'm mistaken. I know there was an instance where he definitely came on for a center back and they shifted to a back 4. Maybe there were some instances where he did shift over to more centrally. Either way, I don't think center back or right center back is a long-term solution for Kosi. He's
I
not
think
he's not a
We
center
were getting
back.
some notes that that O'Neal got pushed out to the right. I'm trying to remember. I think that might have actually been right.
I would have to go back and look,
I
rewatch a
think
game.
that might have been
I can't
right.
remember now.
Yeah, I think that might have actually been right. But either way, I mean, really quickly, Kosi he's earned enough. He's earned trust. He's getting in minutes, important minutes, coming off the bench, and that's an interesting one to track over the next couple of months, especially as you mentioned, as the schedule is going to start condensing pretty soon, and you're going to need players like Kosi to step up big time. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another Toronto Till I Die episode. I'd be remiss. Noel, Sean, thank you for joining the show tonight. Catch the Tunnel Club after match days every weekend or every match day. Follow them at TFC Tunnel Club on Twitter, X. Where else can they find you guys?
Me at NC Allen 80 on Twitter.
I do have my other Twitter page, and I'm drawing a blank right now, but it's Canadian Footy Guy. And that's usually where you guys find me.
It's at CDN Footy Guy, by the way.
There you go. See what would I do without Mike?
Mike's got it. There you go.
I'm allowed to say age is catching up with me. Okay.
Hey, I had to type in your handle so many times while doing the Tunnel Club, so I remember it almost by heart now. For Toronto Till I Die, follow us on Instagram. We're there. The numbers there are climbing weekly. We really appreciate you guys following. We post a lot of our clips there, and a lot of the new Who Are You stuff is also getting posted there as well. Search TTID Show to find us on Instagram. Plus, you know where to find us, your favorite podcasts catchers if you're listening on podcasts. YouTube, click like, subscribe for the videos. We got great numbers tonight. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. For Mike Singh, for Noel Allen, for Sean Levy, I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week, y'all. Cheers.
Peace.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.